Yes? Thank you. Mark? No, this should be interesting, I suppose. And we've got more questions for you than we'll have time, I'm sure. Unless we want to be here till midnight or past, but we're not going to do that. So it's hard to choose from this long list, actually, but the thing is, you've already discussed some of these in general, and we kind of have a good feel for it, but what's your opinions of homeschooling?
That's a loaded question. I believe that parents are their child's first best teacher. And what I mean by that is that parents know their kids, should know their kids better than anyone else. I am a strong believer in parental rights. As a father of 3 girls, one of them was in a Maysell right now, and also does some homeschooling. I support homeschooling. I support the desire and the intent that the parents have, and more specifically, I respect the reasons why they feel they should do that, and I support their right to do that. You know, there's people will tell you there's pluses and minuses to homeschooling, and we can sit here all night long and discuss and debate those. You know, Columbia Virtual Academy, which we have close to 300 students statewide, though they are not homeschool students by statute, they are public school students, they do their schooling at home. And in the state of Washington, you know, the last figure I saw from OSPI is that there's close to 100,000 children in the state of Washington that are homeschooled or do their education at home. So it's a big deal. It is a loaded question. And I think the appropriate question is, do parents have the right to do that? And yes, I believe they do. Lisa?
You know, just a couple more thoughts to add on that, not to, you know, sound redundant. I do think it is an individual person's rights. I mean, that is one of the rights this country guarantees them, is a free education and freedom of choice. And parental advocacy is not a bad thing. I mean, sometimes there are students out there, such as a lot of the kids I work, they don't have a parental advocate. So it's hard to kind of begrudge, you know, the involved parent who wants to, you know, work with their child in the educational setting. One thing I would try to make sure, though, is that we do include those students to, you know, talk with them to see, what are the reasons behind that? If it's just a personal choice, or, you know, have we done something as a district, or perhaps as an individual or a school leader to alienate that person and make them feel like, you know, they're not welcome here, or that, you know, we're not offering, you know, the programs to meet their needs. You know, want to be, you know, form a good relationship with them, so we could just have an open and honest dialogue about the reasons behind doing that. You know, if they feel that they can do a better job, then, you know, there are areas where we need to improve. Or if it's just the best fit for them as a family, you know, maybe there are ways we could partner so that, you know, maybe part of the day the student comes here for certain programs, and part of the day there's certain programs that they want to be sure and teach. So, I'm not opposed to it. I don't see how it could be, because you have to respect the parents' rights to raise their child the way they want to. We would hope that we can be involved in that process in some way.
Okay. Ed?
No.
Paul?
Dr. Pass instituted a number of programs. Are you going to keep them, or are you going to get rid of them?
When you say a number, are you talking
Technology.
iPads or all the above?
Technology, the use of the school gym, let's see, the lunch program, how he's gonna go?
Well, first of all, those decisions would be made in conjunction with the board. Since they're already in place, I mean, I wouldn't see a reason to discontinue them. I think, this district, as far as technology goes, is leaps and bounds beyond our neighboring districts. There's been a lot of benefits of the technology. Our kids here in the district at a very young age, if you don't know how to do something with your phone or your iPad or computer, they can do it for you. I mean, I've heard a lot of parents are asking their children, how do I do this? How do I find that? And as long as those programs are increasing student outcomes, I'm in favor of them. But I think, I don't know if we've actually gone back and looked at the data and see how the, student outcomes have come about as a result of the technology. I think we've assumed it's been positive, it seems to have been positive, but I don't know if, the research is actually done. I'm kind of a data person. I like to, go back and see what that looks like. I'm sure with the changing of the board, though, as you mentioned earlier, there will probably be, new initiatives coming forward, and, people will have different agendas. But, especially as an interim, my objective would be start right where we left off. The programs are already in place. I'm not here to, do away with programs. I'm here to try to add more programs and keep our enrollment up, and at least stop the slide at the beginning. And then, what other things can we add to keep our kids here? I don't know if when students leave, they're communicated with to find out, why are they leaving? The parent just, get a new job, do they have to move? Are they disgruntled about something? Because at, 260, I mean, that's, I'm guessing, an all-time low, or at least over a many-year trend. So I think, the programs we have, and then try to grow up from there, because, we're, I think, facing some unprecedented times right now.
All right, so what would I ask, huh? Well, the transition between a superintendent who's been here for 4 years, seems like that's a little bit longer than the average in ASL. And a new superintendent, I don't feel it's the time to make drastic changes. And I don't believe it's the role for the interim superintendent to make drastic changes. In sort of a knee-jerk reaction. I think that the role of the interim superintendent is to provide some stability to the district, to provide a lot of support to the faculty and staff and students and the parents. And that doesn't mean that we can't evaluate certain programs, and as Lisa said, that's also a board decision. The superintendent works with the board to determine a lot of what we're going to implement. So I think it's important to be open to that and to ask the staff and the teachers. I'll admit that's something that we haven't done well. And I think that's something that has been brought to my attention that I could do better at. And I'm willing to do that. And so I think that's something that we would have to consider. But definitely, I don't think it's the job for the interim to come in and make some knee-jerk cuts to programs and policies. I think that you have to be thoughtful about those types of decisions and make sure that you're acting in line with what the board and the district expects.
I guess I'm up. Look at that, John. Okay, what do you consider to be your greatest strength as an administrator?
I think that as an administrator, one of my greatest strengths is I think I'm pretty consistent. In other words, people usually know you know, where I'm gonna be coming from. They usually don't have to think about me and say, boy, I wonder how he's gonna handle this, or where is he gonna come from today? I think I'm pretty consistent. And I'm not gonna say that I'm perfect by any means. I've made mistakes. Made lots of mistakes. I think an administrator needs to be able to say that and admit that, and be willing to learn from mistakes and try not to make the same one again. I think that's a strength that I have, and being able to say that. I think I'm pretty innovative. I try to think outside the box, and I like to try new things, and always kind of ask the question, how can we do this better? And so I think doing that is good, and just making sure that we're always trying to improve. And I think that's a good strength that I have and that I offer.
Okay, and this is going to be a two-part, but I'm going to go to Lisa next with the same question, and then I'm going to ask to go back to John with a follow-up on that. Lisa, please.
Okay. Well, I think first and foremost, I'm competent. I'm very capable. I'm able to work with different kinds of people that come together to reach consensus. I have a proven track record in the districts I've been at. I've shown some pretty incredible growth in student achievement. For example, when I arrived at the camp the first year, we took the math testing. 4% of the students who took the math test passed. Our last score was 68%. And I've been able to do that everywhere I've been. I think students and staff appreciate my style of leadership. I go about my job in a non-threatening manner, but I also hold people accountable. My expectations are clear. What you see is what you get. Like John said, they don't spend a lot of time guessing about what are we going to do today, or what's it going to look like. There's a consistency. I think I've been supported by students and staff wherever I've gone, and I enjoy the work that I do, and I think that shows with the people that I work with.
Thank you. And the follow-up on that is, what would you consider, John, to be your weakness as an administrator?
I think that weakness, I would say, is, I said I'm an innovative person. I'm excitable. And I'll get excited about a program. And boy, if I think that something is going to work, boy, I want it done yesterday. I think that, one thing I've learned is that that's a dangerous thing to do. And, there's a lot of, especially in the education business, there's a lot of stakeholders. And I think that it's important to bring everyone along, and it's something that I'm working on and attempting to do a better job at. I'll say it, I think I have some good ideas, and a lot of my ideas have worked. And but when you really want to move fast, and sometimes you leave people behind. And so I think that's something that I'm working on, and something I'll continue to work on, and trying to be a better administrator.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
I would say my biggest weakness is that sometimes I won't say don't have the ability, because I hope to someday have the ability, but I just don't shut it off. Okay? The mind is going 24/7. I'm up at 4 or 5 in the morning working on stuff, and working out at the camp late at night, and I just don't do a good job of shutting it off. And some ways that has helped me get to where I am today. It's made me a successful person, but not everyone finds that trait amusing in me. And sometimes the people that you're the closest to are annoyed by that the most. And So that's something I'm trying to do a better job of, and, you know, so far I've not succeeded at that at all. I'm reading a book called Leadership Without Easy Answers, and it's by Ronald Heifetz. And one of the analogies he uses, he says that sometimes leaders need to climb the balcony. And means you need to, you know, step away from the situation, climb up there, you know, take a look down at the work and what's going on, and, you know, try to just step back and get another perspective, because when your face is right in and you're going at it pretty much 24/7, sometimes you don't, you know, you aren't able to step back. Sometimes I tell my staff, you know, just hit me, tell me to stop it, and you want me to, you know, quit bugging you about this, give me to go away. And, you know, that's something that I would like to see myself improve.
Thank you. Sir?
We can always ask questions later on. Maybe we should let the audience go at this point.
Okay, do you have any question? Ed? Okay, I've got one more, and who is next?
I don't know.
Lisa?
Lisa.
I hit you twice in a row, so we're going to throw it. And it probably would work better this way, actually. So, what is your philosophy on a surplus in the school's budget? And what do you think, how much do you think is needed?
Well, is there more to the question? Okay. I mean, a typical goal, as you often hear, strive for 5. You know, I think that's kind of a safe margin. You really don't want to be getting down into the 2 and 3%. I sort of, in that philosophy, subscribe to more is better. But, you know, there's a point where if you have too much reserve, then you're shorting students' programs. And, you know, I do believe in the philosophy you do have to plan for a rainy day, but you can't hoard the money so that the students suffer, or maybe you don't add that art teacher that you wanted, or, you know, other programs suffer. But that's kind of the general guideline.
Thank you. John? I know that this, you know, kind of budget's your thing, so.
Yeah. You know, it really depends on the economy at the time. My personal belief is that a school district like us needs a reserve up in the 8 to 9% for the last couple of years. And that's what we've strived to have, and we've done a pretty good job at that. And here's why. I just got an email from Randy Dorn today, not personally, but as part of the list.
Randy Dorn
is the superintendent of public instruction.
Thank you.
And he is very concerned, and I've been reading this, and a lot of people have been telling this, that the legislature will not finish in 18 days when it's supposed to. If the legislature does not finish, and what Randy Dorn is communicating to business managers and superintendents is that the state may not be able to have any apportionment for us for the month of July. The payroll in the school district is about $345,000 a month. Our utilities and our accounts payable ranges from $80,000 to $100,000 a month. Our current reserves are $488,000 right now, I believe. And so you can see where I'm going with this. If we don't have reserves that are adequate, we might not make our payroll in July. Quite a few people that wouldn't be happy about that, including me. And so, you know, I think it's very prudent, especially if you're a small school district, to have a little bit larger reserve, because you don't know when something like that is going to happen. You know, I think we have done a really good job, you know, keeping us financially sound for the last, you know, since 2008, when the economy went south. And you know, I would carry on the same philosophy. You know, I don't see our economy in this nation getting any better anytime soon. And so that's unfortunate, but that's the reality we live in.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question. I'd like to maybe ask both of them.
Okay.
I'd like to know if it's that they would take what's aware of where there are things that are not, was costing more than what we're bringing in.
Okay,
Is that considered?
yeah, we can hear you. You get a question out of that?
I'd like clarification on the question.
No.
So-
More informed what what's being brought in, what's being spent.
Okay, so the question that you have is whether each candidate thinks that the board should be made aware of where a particular program may be financially. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay?
Whose turn is it?
I lost track. John, you're up to that.
Yeah. So just make sure I understand the question. The question is, should the board be in the loop, so to speak, about what programs, where they are financially? Expenditures and revenues, right?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. I would say it's irresponsible of the board not to demand that. Especially in a small school district, where, you know, money's tight, in a community where money's tight. We need to know that information, and you need to be asking for it. As a business manager, or as superintendent, of course, I'm going to provide any and all of that information that you need in order to make those decisions. That's my job. And so there's certainly absolutely nothing to hide. You know, every audit that I've been through in the last 7 years has been clean. And I'm happy to, you know, it's a complicated, some of the budget stuff is really complicated, but I'm happy to meet with anyone and discuss it and go over it and make sure that, you know, that I met with a community member a couple months ago and spent over an hour explaining a particular point, and I didn't let him go until his questions were answered. So yeah, that information is important to give, and certainly I'm willing to do that, so absolutely.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yeah, I think not only the food service program, but all the programs, it's important to know kind of a monthly status of what those look like. It is common in many districts that the food service runs in the red. And while Maysell may not run in the red as much as some, I mean, that is a fact of many districts. You do not make a lot of money, if any, and frequently are running a negative balance with those programs. But, you know, I think, you know, a lot of these issues maybe would be best explained like in a work session, because as John said, they are complicated formulas. I mean, just formulas on how FTE calculations are figured are, you know, this long, 2 lines, size 8 font. I mean, if you've ever looked at the OSPI website, there are several forms and formulas that talk about apportionment and how much money you get each month, and it's F4 plus F5, and it refers to all these different cells, you know, in like a spreadsheet, for example, divided by, I mean, they just go on and on and on, and so it's probably not something you would want to go into detail in a normal board meeting like this, but it wouldn't be bad to have a work session every month, just to look at issues of concern, such as a financial picture on various programs and things. But yes, it's something that the board should know and be advised of, for sure.
Thank you. Size 8 font, I would need a magnifying glass. Just saying.
Or long arms, right?
Comes with getting older, right? Okay, further questions? Then we'll go ahead and open it up to some questions from the community. Okay, Mike Cleaner, you got the floor.
Well, I guess in my view, Bob, or the board, the most important thing for the interim superintendent is pick and choose. They're going to have the support of the community and staff. Without that, I'm not going to be like they're not going to succeed. We have 3 administrators, I believe, in the district now. You're interviewing 2 of them. One of them is going to have to work with one of these 2. And I hope the board ask the opinion of the administrator who's going to have to work with it. Because it was stated at the beginning of the meeting that Karen's got a plate full. I think Karen's had a plate full for a lot of years. I think out of respect, her opinion needs to be solicited. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Dave? Yes, okay, and is it Natasha?
Yes.
Thank you. Ron Salmi?
I'd like you to think about going with experience and versatility between the two. There's no substitute for experience. As you know, and yourself as an employer, you had to do various jobs in order to get to where you're at. All that knowledge means quite a bit. So I'd like you guys to, I know there's two ways of thinking, with your heart and your head. Sometimes with your head is awful difficult. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have a question they'd like to ask? Go ahead.
My question is pretty much about procedures. I'm kind of new to this process. It's my understanding that John is seeking an interim position and that Lisa is ultimately seeking a permanent position as a superintendent. So my question is, if Lisa, for instance, were put in the interim position, then would there down the road be a thorough search for a permanent superintendent?
So I think that question is addressed to the board, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and I can answer that. And yes, the only position that we're seeking right now is an interim superintendent. And yes, there will be a superintendent search started. More than likely, probably around November, December, the early preliminary parts of it, so that it's already being advertised, so that when the new board comes in, we can already have a head start on that, and hopefully get a good candidate pool to choose from. And it'll be a much lengthier process, which will include interview committees, community. Yes. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Yes. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I heard her mention Common Core.
Uh-huh.
Does she support Common Core education?
I do, because it's what we're doing and it's the way it
Or
is.
speak up.
It's what the state has decided that will be used as the curriculum.
The
So,
state has decided?
well, the state and 48, I think, other states, there are a couple of holdouts, but over the last probably 15 years, the state has worked on establishing a curriculum and grade level expectations for every grade, K through 12 by subject area. So while it's it's basically a new twist on an old hat, essentially. So those types of things have been in place. This one is just more national.
The federalizes control over education.
Exactly.
It pretty well does away with our state. And I'm totally against that.
Yeah, it's a federal level mandate, essentially.
Right, then that's what that Chinese program was about too. It's it's a federal program, not a state program. And that was my beef.
Yes. Yeah, the Chinese program is more district specific.
Well, some states have voted it out. They won't let it in their state. South Carolina, I think, was one, and I forget what the other one was. They won't let it in their state.
Texas.
I think it's important to write your legislation. I don't know how you feel, because we pretty much have to do what we're told to a degree here. Yes, and we can